Poor Jimmy. True, it was a terrible night for women, children, and for the hundreds of thousands of hard-working immigrants who cut his lawn.
It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go. For healthcare.
You know what? If I ever cry on TV, it'll be because Maroon 5 put out a new song. But that's it. Yeah, big. All right. So a Republican has won an election, and you know what that means. Jimmy Carter.
Back in the day when I was on the prime time of Fox and you were on the prime time of CNN, a couple of hours after our shows ended, late night comics would come on, and they occasionally would make us laugh, Piers. I mean, occasionally they understood that they were in the game of making everyone laugh. As you know, they've abandoned that game now, and they're just political operatives out there. Colbert, Kimmel, Seth Meyer, who I struggle to even mention that guy's name. He's such an absolute I can't stand him. But anyway, it's just my thought bubble.
What happens when a comedian stops chasing laughs and starts preaching his own worldview? When punchlines fade into long-winded lectures, late-night TV turns into a cultural battlefield. Jimmy Kimmel, once daring, playful, and unpredictable, now positions himself as a moral authority. Opposing him are critics like Greg Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly, dismantling his image piece by piece. This shift reflects comedy's loss of surprise, replaced by predictable, safe, and scripted messaging audiences see coming from miles away today everywhere now.
Has to stay alive for 4 more years. It's also time for liberals to tell themselves that they're still right about everything and their hysteria and delusions of persecution are perfectly normal. Yet right now, they're melting like that stick of butter Joy Behar keeps between her thighs to prevent chafing. Case in point, last night, all the other late-night hosts threw a hissy fit. It's too bad Tim Walz is still grieving, or he could send them all a sack of industrial-strength tampons.
We took a look at some of their reactions to the news of Trump's win. Look at this.
Hey there. How are you doing? If you watch the show regularly, I'm guessing you're not doing great. Yeah, me neither.
Let's be honest, it was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go, for healthcare.
To understand the collapse, you must remember how high he once soared. Before earnest speeches and political messaging, Jimmy Kimmel ruled late night without restraint. Rising on the Man Show, he embraced wild, over-the-top humor, trampoline stunts, outrageous bits, and pure shock value meant to entertain, not instruct. He was unfiltered, daring, and never pretended to offer life lessons. His comedy struck fast and blunt, not carefully engineered. Then everything shifted. The leather jacket disappeared, replaced by seriousness. The carefree entertainer gave way to a burdened host, speaking solemnly from a multi-million-dollar stage, leaving audiences questioning whether this was growth.
After taking the summer off, he's missed a lot. Kimmel says if you're not vaccinated, you shouldn't get a hospital ICU bed. But I'm not sure if Jimmy was being sincere because he wasn't crying. Anyway, it's just funny hearing someone say, I see you, who nobody actually sees. Look, I don't want to suggest that Kimmel's show has become boring and predictable, but last night during the taping, people in the studio audience were changing the...
For many viewers, the breaking point came when emotion replaced humor. It started with sincere stories about his son's health, moments that felt genuine and moving. Over time, however, tears became routine. Election losses, troubling headlines, even small controversies were delivered with shaking voices and watery eyes, treated with the weight of a eulogy. What once seemed authentic vulnerability slowly felt rehearsed. Critics argue Kimmel learned that staged emotion often earned louder applause than sharp jokes. From that moment, he wasn't just doing comedy anymore. He had shifted into a polished performance of sentiment, focused less on laughter and more on reassurance, validation, and emotional signaling.
How much it costs to produce Jimmy Kimmel's show? I guarantee you it's tens and tens of millions. It could be as much as 100 million. I have no idea. You know how much Tucker's video cost? Nothing. You know how much Jimmy Kimmel, how many people he gets tuning in on an average night? Just last week, his average was, in the overall, meaning all viewers, 1.5 million. In the key demo, 236,000. Tucker would have been embarrassed to pull that on any night he was on the Fox News channel. That's what they're getting now. Tucker's numbers were 3 times what Jimmy Kimmel gets. And Tucker's little basement video that he did from clearly like his cabin that he broadcast out of Maine in literally has 21 million views. Okay. 21 million views. Whereas, as I point out, on ABC, a massive network that comes into your home for free that you have to make no effort to find, at best, Jimmy Kimmel can get 1.5 million. He needs to have a little self-perspective before going out there and hurling these insults because he looks a little...
As Kimmel leaned deeper into political commentary, two Fox News figures became his loudest critics. Greg Gutfeld, known for sharp, biting humor, regularly targeted him with a simple claim: Jimmy just isn't funny anymore. Gutfeld portrayed Kimmel as predictable, an easy-to-read Democratic mouthpiece whose jokes felt approved, rehearsed, and drained of surprise. Then Megyn Kelly entered the debate, where Gutfeld mocked, Kelly dissected. She systematically challenged Kimmel's moral grandstanding, supporting each point with data and documented examples. She didn't just argue his jokes failed, she questioned his credibility, presenting him as someone claiming moral authority without the history or evidence to justify it.
True, it was a terrible night for women, children, and for the hundreds of thousands of hard-working immigrants who cut his lawn.
It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go, for healthcare, for our climate, for science, for journalism, for justice, for free speech. It was a terrible night for poor people, for the middle class, for seniors who rely on Social Security, for our allies in Ukraine, for NATO, for the truth and democracy and decency. And it was a terrible night for everyone who voted against him. And guess what? It was a bad night for everyone who voted for him, too. You just don't realize it yet.
Kimmel's harshest critics didn't need to point to a failed joke or another sentimental monologue. They had something far more damaging: his own past. As he recast himself as a champion of social causes, old clips resurfaced and were impossible to dismiss. The most controversial came from The Man Show, including sketches impersonating NBA star Karl Malone and parodying Oprah Winfrey using exaggerated costumes and makeup. For critics, these moments became decisive evidence. How could someone with that history now lecture audiences about fairness or awareness? Each emotional appeal was overshadowed by these contradictions, exposing a sharp divide between the Kimmel of today and the Kimmel of yesterday, with few convincing defenses left.
There was one clear winner. No, not Oppenheimer. It was sanctimonious leftists for their lead role in pretending they are better than you. Several people shared in this achievement. Winner number one, Jimmy Kimmel. For the fourth time, Kimmel hosted the Oscars before an adoring crowd of Hollywood stars who laughed and curried favor with the man who wore blackface so many times he's second only to Justin Trudeau in his fondness for the practice. Yes, some of the very same celebrities who wanted you to believe they were horrified after yours truly said in 2018 that people used to don dark makeup in order to imitate well-known black celebrities, and it wasn't a big deal, absolutely ate up the performance by Hollywood darling Mr.
As accusations of double standards eroded his credibility, Megyn Kelly focused on something harsher: the numbers. She pointed to the striking gap between the enormous cost of Jimmy Kimmel's show, reportedly tens of millions each year, and its shrinking audience. Despite airing on a major broadcast network, his viewership often hovered just above 1 million. Kelly contrasted this with the surge of independent media, noting how Tucker Carlson, after leaving Fox, could upload a simple video from a cabin and attract more than 20 million views in a single day, without massive budgets or studio resources.
Had a penis. Love you, Bruce. Remember when Johnny Carson cried like a baby over Ronald Reagan getting elected? Yeah, neither do I. And you know why he didn't? Because his wife didn't keep his balls in a Tupperware container next to a box of tofu burgers. But the killer phrase was at the end when Kimmel said, "You just don't realize it." Because you see, he's smarter than you, and he needs you to know that. And his ego can't bear that there's someone out there more famous and more influential than him. I got news for you, Kimmel. The last time you mattered, Bruce...
Just when the battle lines seemed set, a new clash showed how deeply Kimmel had moved into political combat. It began with an offhand remark from NFL quarterback Aaron Rodgers, who speculated during an interview that Kimmel's name could appear on a newly discussed list tied to a disgraced financier. The comment was unverified and casual, yet Kimmel's response was anything but calm. Instead of diffusing it with humor, he launched into an angry on-air rant, branding Rogers a conspiracy-driven extremist and hinting at legal action. The exchange went viral, turning loud, personal, and legally charged. For critics, it confirmed their view. Kimmel was no longer focused on comedy, but on confrontation and retaliation.
Girls on trampolines. Now the only boob we see is him. He once co-hosted The Man Show. Now he's sobbing like he just watched Steel Magnolias 3 days.
Whose blackface costumes included his oft-repeated bit as basketball star Karl Malone.
Now, Karl Malone never seen no flying saucer himself, but if he do, that's gonna be a
And let's not forget Oprah in a fat suit.
15 minutes a day is all you need to get your heart rate up to where...
Please.
In the end, everything comes down to one question. Is Jimmy Kimmel still bold, or has he become safe and predictable? To Kimmel and his supporters, he's a fearless voice using his platform to challenge power. To critics like Greg Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly, he represents a watered-down rebellion, targeting people Hollywood already dislikes while collecting a paycheck from a corporate giant like Disney. There's little risk and no sharp edge left. Gutfeld highlights the clearest change. Audiences don't laugh anymore. They nod, applaud, and agree. The show has shifted from comedy to a political echo chamber, where Kimmel speaks to those who already share his views. His evolution now feels like a cautionary tale of comfort replacing daring.
This past 2 weeks, they had the Kennedy Center honors the other night where Joe Biden couldn't say Dionne Warwick. He kept calling her Diane, and he didn't know who Barry Gibb was. He kept calling him Billy. You know who else was honored at the Kennedy Center? You know who else? Billy Crystal. Just FYI, do you know who once opened up the Academy Awards in full blackface?
Oh,
Billy Crystal. Billy Crystal. And do you know who's going to be hosting the Academy Awards this year? Jimmy Kimmel. Do you know who's worn blackface repeatedly and spoken inner city sort of urban accent saying she needs to darn those socks? Jimmy Kimmel as Oprah, as a fat-suited, black-faced, darning socks Oprah. Now, if you are of the left, that's...
By chasing approval from one side, Kimmel sacrificed his broad appeal, likely losing more viewers than he ever gained. His path now reflects a sharply divided culture where even comedy feels pressured to choose a side. The deeper issue isn't just about one late-night host, but about the future of entertainment itself, shaped by outrage cycles and fractured audiences. Is there still space for a comedian whose only goal is to make people laugh? Or are we entering an era where every joke must first pass a political test? The cruel irony may be that we were never truly laughing together at all.